Welcome to Building the Future, hosted by Kevin Horick. With millions of listeners a month, Building the Future has quickly become one of the fastest rising programs, with a focus on interviewing startups, entrepreneurs, investors, CEOs, and more. The radio and TV show airs in 15 markets across the globe, including Silicon Valley. For full showtimes, past episodes, or to sponsor the show, please visit buildingthefutureshow.com.
Welcome back to the show. Today we have Randall Crowder. He's the Chief Operating Officer at Phunware. Randall, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me, Kevin.
Yeah, I'm really excited to have you on the show. I think what you guys are doing is actually really innovative and cool, but maybe before we get into all that stuff, let's get to know you a little bit better and start off with where you grew up.
You got it. You're actually born and raised in Austin, Texas. So
Very nice.
I
love Austin.
Been home. Have you been here before?
Yeah, I've been there a couple of times. I was there for South by one year, which was amazing and crazy at the same time. And then I came for a different conference years ago after. But yeah, so I've had tons of really good times in Austin. So
yeah, I always point to South by Southwest as a reason why so many people move here, because they always plan it during the 1 month in Austin that is absolutely beautiful. And people think, wow, this is Texas? I'm like, no, this is not Texas. The rest of the year is horrible. It's hot. It's humid. You don't want to move here. It's our little oasis.
Yeah, I think the other time I came was in July, and it was like extremely hot. Yeah, so I know. But yeah, So walk me through kind of you were in the military and then you went to university. Walk me through kind of that and what made you go into the military and what did you take in university?
Yeah, great question. So I went to West Point for undergrad,
okay.
United States Military Academy up in New York.
Okay.
Didn't come from a military family,
okay.
but always kind of never shied from a challenge, I guess you could say.
Interesting.
And so one of my best friends in high school at the time, his father had gone to West Point, and so he did what best friends do and say, "Why don't you come with me?" And he knew he was always going to go to West Point, and I kind of started looking into it and kind of go through a series of approvals to get in and get kind of nominated by a congressman, and ended up just kind of going through it on a lark. Didn't really think I'd get in, and then once I got in, I was like, well, hell, I guess I got to go now. But you got to remember, this was 1997, 1998.
Yeah.
Rumsfeld was downsizing the army. People were getting paid like a couple $100,000 just to get out of the army early. So
yeah.
he sold me pretty good. He kind of fancied himself a sales and marketing guy. He said, "Listen, we're going to go. It's a great education. We'll probably get paid to not even serve. It's going to be awesome." And then, of course, my junior year, September 11th happened, and
wow.
so I remember calling up saying, that plan you had, I think that kind of went out the window. So ended up, being, fortunately, was able to deploy a couple times and come back and, none the worse for wear, at least physically. And so, wouldn't change it for the world.
Okay.
The Army, teaches you a lot about yourself, a lot about organizations, a lot about teams. And it's actually a lot more, I always tell people, it's a lot more entrepreneurial, at least now, than people think.
Interesting. Why do you say that?
If you ever have a chance to read a book called Startup Nation, it talks a lot about the military's, role in kind of innovation in Israel. And it's not that much dissimilar, for us. And so, you go into a situation where there is no plan. We never fought or trained for the wars we fought in Iraq
Sure.
and Afghanistan. And so in the very beginning, you threw these large, clunky organizations into a situation where they weren't really optimized for.
Okay.
And now all of a sudden you have to adapt and change on the ground. So I was executing kind of side letters with, British contractors to, open up new supply lines. We were, doing joint missions. I mean, one day you're a civil affairs officer. The next day you're a trigger puller. The day after that, you're getting ambushed and calling in air support. So you're kind of having to transition your role. It's as good. Every good entrepreneur knows you don't really have a job description. You do what's needed, and so you really had to adapt to survive.
Yeah, interesting. So walk me through kind of getting out of the military, kind of going back to Texas, University of Texas at Austin, and then walk me through kind of that journey into kind of transitioning into what you're currently doing now.
Absolutely. So The Army will teach you one of two things. Either you love a boss and you love command and control, or you hate a boss and you never want command and control. So I think I'm definitely the latter.
Okay.
I vowed to kind of never give, my resume to anyone ever again. And so always, entrepreneurship was always kind of my calling. I love kind of being able to create things, even working without a safety net. And so when I got out of the Army in 2008, I was basically, I had applied and gotten accepted to Macombs for my MBA. And I got out in basically, call it January. So I had about 8 months until school started. And so I just hit the ground running. I made it. I always tell everybody I talk to, kind of how you kind of get going, because a lot of people, I think they feel like they're maybe stuck and they don't know the next step to take. I made a list of about 100 people in Austin that I wanted to meet, and kind of put a couple different notes by each name, kind of how I might be connected to them or how I might reach them or what they might be doing or what they might be interested in. And I set about just meeting everybody and anybody I could. And I told them, I said, listen, I'm going to school. I'm not looking for a job. I'm not looking for a handout. I just want to hear your story. So, I began reaching out to everyone I could. And, Austin's a great town. It's very open. It's not very pretentious. And so I got a lot of responses. Some people are just not going to get back to you, and that's not their fault. They're busy, or maybe they just don't know what the catch is. But I met with a lot of wonderful people all throughout Austin. Ended up really clicking with a gentleman named Admiral Bobby Inman. He was the deputy director of the CIA, early investor in Oracle and Dell.
Interesting.
Kind of an incredible man. And he had started a venture fund here in town. So I began kind of just working with him, really to true military fashion, know your enemy. I was like, if I'm not a big good entrepreneur, I want to know everything about venture capitalists, because I'm never going to raise money. I want to know the lingo. I want to know the approach. I want to know how they think behind closed doors. And so really developed a great relationship with him and his son, Tom Inman, who was running at the time Novē Ventures, which became Limestone Ventures. And we started doing some deal sourcing out of the angel community here in Austin, which is really vibrant. And that thing led to another kind of a next lesson for anybody kind of entrepreneurial minded is you never get what you don't ask for. So I started really just shadowing the founder of the Central Texas Angel Network, telling him, look, I'm really just sourcing deals for the Admiral, but if I can help out, I'll help out. This is now the summer before starting my MBA.
Interesting.
And lo and behold, it looked like the executive director of that angel network was going to possibly be moving on, and they were looking for another director. And I said, well, who are you looking for? They basically described Elon Musk. And I was like, well, I'm sorry to burst your bubble, but Elon Musk is not going to run your angel network. But I'll tell you what, I will. I've been, running an organization in the military for a long time. This is what you need is disciplined management and better organizational development, and I can do that. And so, I built what's called a standard operating procedure for angel networks, pitched it to the board. They believed me, and so I took over the Central Texas Angel Network about the same time I was starting my MBA. I ran it for about 3 years. It's now, when I left, it was the third most active angel network in the country.
Wow, that's huge, man. Congrats on that.
Yeah, now it's number one. So
yeah, that's great.
We definitely kind of cracked the code on that. But during that process, so I got my MBA, did a Kaufman Fellowship out in California. Ended up, a lot of the deals we were doing were healthcare related. I didn't know a lot about healthcare. But I had gotten a really good, understanding of tech. So we started TEXO Ventures back in 2009, 2010 to really do tech venture and healthcare. And so we focused mostly on health IT, tech-enabled health services. Great time there. Had two other partners. Ended up deciding not to raise a second fund. And now, I had also kind of along that way, you work with engineers, you find out all the cool stuff. So I knew about Bitcoin kind of before Bitcoin was cool. Started another fund called Novē Ventures to really just focus on investing in companies leveraging blockchain.
Interesting.
And so long story, a little bit shorter, not short, but I ended up keeping in contact with somebody I met back in my angel days. This was back in 2009. I had met an individual coming from Newport. He was, a very successful entrepreneur, had decided to kind of hang up the hat and really focus on mentoring the next generation. I met with him, I think, twice. And one thing with investing, you get pattern recognition. And I told him after the second meeting, I said, there's no way in hell you're going to hang up the hat. some people you can just tell are born operators.
Yeah,
They can't sit still. They got an idea every 2 seconds. And I was like, there's no way you're going to kind of, for all intents and purposes, retire today. Well, fast forward 10 years, we kept in contact that whole time. Sure as hell I was right back then. He did end up starting another company, and I actually helped him with it. Had a $1.6 million seed round to get it going.
Wow.
We kept in contact over the last 10 years, and about a year and a half ago, almost 2 years ago, he contacted me and said, hey, I know you know a little bit about this crypto thing. I'd love to get more involved kind of as an investor. You want to just kind of, start getting together regularly and talk crypto and blockchain. And lo and behold, he said, hey, I think we kind of started riffing on his own company. So this is perfect for blockchain.
Interesting.
We kind of came up with a construct of what that might look like. He asked me if I would even consider investing and maybe advising. And said, yeah. So I invested about $3 million.
Wow.
And, came on to really advise, learned more about where the company was over the last 10 years, fell in love. And so on the opportunity, I'm sure you can, spoiler alert, I'm sure you can guess where I'm going with this.
Sure.
That company was Phunware. The cryptocurrency was PhunCoin. The CEO that I met 10 years ago was Alan Towski. And so it's serendipitous how things work where, I was only a year back in Austin. He was coming to Austin. We met. I helped him with the first round to start Phunware a decade ago. And now 10 years later, I invested the last private money into the company. I'll tell you what we're doing now and why it's the last private money. But now being COO, being able to work hand in hand with them 10 years later is pretty cool.
Yeah, no, that's really quite fascinating. So walk me through kind of Phunware's journey then, and kind of what are you guys doing now and how has it kind of evolved over time? Because I think we were talking a few minutes earlier before we started recording, I think staying relevant and kind of on top of this stuff is kind of something you guys have very much pride yourself on.
Yeah, and I'll give Alan credit for that. So after kind of going back now without being vague, when we met, and he said he wanted to start another company, he had a hypothesis as clear as day. And it's what you want in a leader. You want
Sure.
somebody who sees where the puck is going, has kind of the audacity to go after it, but also the constitution to see it through.
Sure.
And so Alan had the hypothesis that, look, all these brands have just kind of figured out web.
Yeah.
They maybe have a website. And if they're good, maybe there's some sort of engagement you can have with a customer, whether it's e-com or something else. But, the world is moving faster than brands will ever be able to respond to. And this thing called mobile is about to take off. 2% of internet content was being consumed on mobile about a decade ago. And Alan said, this is going to be the next wave. This is the future. The mobile phone will become the most valuable real estate to a brand in existence because it's connected to a human. And a human is what it's all about. And so what he did in the very beginning was, let's set up a company to help brands transition from web to mobile. So early on, kind of an internal tagline was everything you need to succeed on mobile. And so we cut our teeth building, mobile apps. And another important thing that he got right was he believed very certainly, avidly, that it was going to be native apps that win. And there were still people who kind of thought, well, we could have this kind of responsive web thing, or, what if we can kind of, take HTML and do something there? And he said, absolutely not. It's going to be native apps all the way. And he was right. I think 80% of internet content is consumed on mobile now, and like 70% of that is on native apps. So he was 2 for 2, and it really set Phunware on a great trajectory to be a leader in this space. So we built the first NASCAR app, the first NFL app. If you touch a mobile application that says Fox, that's us. So you have a company, one of the largest media properties in the world, who could probably build and buy anything they wanted, and they still outsource all of their mobile to us because we're just probably the best in the world at making sure that you can deliver something that is not only engaging for a consumer, but it's got to be reliable.
Sure.
So when we had most recently the World Cup, Fox set live streaming records concurrently for every match, and then you have YouTube and Google crashing.
Yeah.
We did the Sochi Olympics, didn't crash. And so we're trying to tell HBO, look, you let us take over for you, because then you'll have Game of Thrones crashing and pissing everybody off. But we've gotten very good at deploying commercially grade, very reliable mobile ecosystems.
Interesting.
And so we've been, in doing that though, we kind of had this interesting problem that became an opportunity for us.
Okay.
So we needed to be able to do that at scale and do it very reliably and very well and churn those out, because you didn't want to have a huge kind of lead time to develop these applications. So we started getting really good at building them fast. And so we developed SDKs, APIs, script utilities that we needed. So it's like, if you're doing Excel and you start building your own macros, you're like, man, I got to do this faster next time. So you start doing things for the future. Well, all of a sudden you turn around and you look at all that and you go, holy crap, that's pretty valuable.
Totally.
So we started licensing that to other publishers, saying, look, you're trying to build an application. You want to serve apps. You want to serve ads. You want to manage content. You want to deploy an application faster, smarter, and with more features. We'll just license you the stuff we already built, so you don't have to start from square one.
Interesting.
And so people started licensing our stuff. And now the interesting thing about that is you start to look much more like a software as a service company, which Wall Street loves, much more than a custom dev shop. So that's kind of the heart of what we started to become. And then, I mean, it's you couldn't make this stuff up. Another kind of almost, I always jokingly say, and I'll tell you about two more lines of business and I'll pause. We have like probably $3 billion companies all wrapped up into one, which is both great and also kind of scary. So you have this, application ecosystem, engine that we've created where we can churn those out, help people be better on mobile. Great. We have part of that is licensing this stuff to help other people be great on mobile. Great. Well, now you're deploying all of these, applications, and because of the way our SDKs are coded, and because of our app framework that we use, they end up becoming these really interesting data acquisition devices as well. So fast forward 10 years, about 1 billion monthly actives touch our platform.
Wow.
And so
That's
now
huge.
we're generating about 5 terabytes of data every day.
Wow.
And we have over 1 terabyte of data. And so as you look at companies, a lot of these large brands, and kind of when earlier in the conversation, brands are looking for humans. And that's a problem right now when it comes to like Facebook and Google. These brands are throwing money at them, and they're not really sure what they're getting in return. And then you have this issue with Cambridge Analytica, so now there's this consumer trust issue going on. So these are those moments where you say there's got to be a better way. So the way our data is collected and the way we curate it is something we're currently calling the knowledge graph. And so when you go into kind of our command center with a world-class team of data scientists, it really makes you feel like you're in the NSA. And so we look at disparate data sets in the aggregate, kind of think of like a series of clusters, big clusters, small clusters, everything connected by kind of nodes and lines. And we can visualize any data set kind of in 3 dimensions. And so we can draw all of these interesting inferences or correlations between disparate data sets that, people just wouldn't naturally understand. But using kind of our algorithms, we can kind of make sense of. And so we can take all of that, and I won't bore you with the details, and my EVP of product engineering will probably kill me anyways, because some of it's proprietary. But literally we can track a phone, leaving a restaurant, know when they left, where they went, where their home is, where their work is, what applications they use, when did they consume the most data on their phone, what apps consume the most data, how to reach that person at the right time, at the right place to deliver the right message.
Interesting.
And so, and this is important because on the onset, it sounds like, oh man, it's a little bit, like Big Brother, but that's why we're introducing, PhunCoin, the cryptocurrency, because we're actually going to turn that on its head. But I won't get to that just yet. The last line of business, the other $1 billion line of business, it's kind of one of those TV shows. You're like, but wait, Kevin, there's more. It makes julienne fries too. So, one of the things back in about 2014, and you'll see how this all connects to a cryptocurrency.
Okay.
We ended up being also involved in kind of IoT before IoT was cool.
Interesting.
So we had a challenge from actually a hospital, it was Kaiser at the time, to help kind of bring all the value proposition of GPS outdoors, indoors. We're really good at mobile. We're really just smart engineers. Could we crack the code on basically indoor blue dot? And we basically, now this was a long story short, we killed it. So we beat out Google.
Wow.
We beat out a lot of different providers. And over the last probably, 3 or 4 years, we've become at least probably one of the top 3, if not the number 1 company for the kind of tech that goes into locating people and things indoors. So bringing to life that blue dot capability inside, which is a whole series of challenges.
Sure.
We've even done it on a cruise ship.
Wow.
We just completed a proof of concept on a cruise ship, which is interesting because now you're not only dealing with lat long, but you're dealing with dynamic elevation because of the rise and fall of the waves.
Yeah,
no one was able to solve it, but we were. So interesting opportunities with cruise lines. Now, once you have that, and I remember we're the foundational element of all this. We're the platform. So
right.
You can build applications on top of it's called Locate. On
right.
top of our Locate software, you can build whatever you want. So the cruise line wanted to build basically Uber Eats on a boat. So I'm Army, so I can say boat, but don't ever say that to someone in the Navy or someone in the cruise industry. They love to call it a ship, and it's a her. So they'll yell at you if you do that. So I apologize to anyone listening, but I'm the Army, so I always call them boats. Anyways, so we have this, interesting application for Uber Eats on a ship, whereas, a hospital likes to do, wayfinding, for instance. Right. How do I get, people from the parking lot to an OR or to a waiting room without getting lost, because hospitals are inherently confusing to get around. We can do it we work with AT&T Stadium, we do airports, malls, big box retailers. And so now if you step back and you look at this whole picture.
Beacons and Wi-Fi and Bluetooth?
So we can use anything. So we can use BLE, we can use proximity beacons. There's a lot of new tech that some of our channel partners that are putting kind of smart lighting into buildings. We can use those. So one other thing that Alan did that was very smart. 2 things, and then I'll finally shut up on all this.
No, it's good.
I can talk a little bit about it. Channel partner agnostic. We build the tech.
Got you.
We don't care what platform you have. We don't care what hardware you have. We are incredible at systems integration, and so we can pretty much play with anyone. And that was the important thing of what he did and the value proposition of our data. So many people like Facebook and Google, they have what we kind of call a vertical walled garden. They have data, but it's kind of within their own ecosystem. We said, hey, a person is not a vertical walled garden. A person is very horizontal. We use different apps. We do different things. We go to different places.
Right.
Some have iOS. Some have Android. So Phunware took kind of a horizontal slice and said, our common denominator is going to be the mobile phone, not a single app. So now we have, when we talk about these disparate data sets, it's data sets from all aspects of that mobile ecosystem, not just one app. And that's really interesting to brands because now they're not tied to just the Facebook world or just the Google world or just iOS or just Android. We're just saying, look, if they got a phone, we want to make sure you can give them the right message at the right time to do something that they actually want to do. So we kind of take that relationship and make it less adversarial. It becomes now a conversation.
Sure.
Because look, people want to buy still. They just hate being sold, especially when it's not when you're trying to get 2 kids out the door in the morning and you're making lunches. You're not really primed to receive an advertisement, and so you got to really understand your user, their behavior, and when they're most willing to listen, and what products they're most willing to listen to.
Sure.
So now, if you step back, I'll do a quick summary on everything. So you have this company in Austin, Texas called Phunware. It's got an incredible team of 85 engineers who can build pretty much any application you can think of. We have data coming in, over a petabyte of data at this point.
That's crazy.
And we have
That's
integration.
Awesome.
Yeah, we have integration with IoT in the real world.
Very cool.
So I'm going to pause there if you get any questions about Phunware, and then I'll explain why that 3-legged stool is such an interesting foundation for PhunCoin.
Sure.
Thanks for listening to Building the Future. This show is heard by more than 1 million people monthly in over 15 markets worldwide, including Silicon Valley. Kevin Horick's guests are leading business owners, successful entrepreneurs, and merchandisers worldwide. Now, your brand has an opportunity to tap into this dedicated and active group of business people who are looking for places to invest and the right opportunities to support. Find out how you can get involved at buildingthefutureshow.com.
So I'm curious, though, for people that actually want to leverage the tech you built to build on top of it kind of their own solutions, how do they go about doing that?
So, great question. So doing that is actually pretty simple. I mean, we're always on standby. One of the things that we've done operationally is kind of integrate our customer success team with basically engineering and support, because that's really what success means. It's really, integrating our tech into their tech well and at scale. And so, but I mean, the traditional way, you can go to GitHub, you can, we have tutorials and easy to use SDKs and step-by-step, you can also talk to a real person, great support, functionality within the company, because that's what we want. We want people to wow and delight their customers. And so the more we can help them, integrate and use our stuff, the better. So you can go to GitHub to start playing with some of our software, out of the box.
Sure.
You can also contact us directly, and we can kind of collaborate on how to best use our tech, and we can kind of walk you through if it's not something you're familiar with. And that's what, if you listen to Alan ever talk about this, he always kind of uses a cake analogy. We have a lot of ingredients if you want to kind of do it yourself, or we have ready-made cakes that we can deploy to you if you're an off-the-shelfer. And so you're either a do-it-yourselfer or off-the-shelfer, and that's dependent on each company and how they're arrayed. And we don't pass judgment, and we can work with either one of them.
Sure. Interesting. So how did you guys land some of these big brands kind of early on?
Whew, man, I always tell you, I'll again compliment Alan and his other two founders, Luan Dang and Alan Kane. It's hustle. In the early days, it's what's funny, I don't know if you know a gentleman named David Goggins.
I don't know him, but I know of him.
Yeah, so motivational speaker, ex-Navy SEAL. And one of the things he says, which I think he's talking more about just people, the human being, but I think it applies to business and just about everything. He says that, the world, the reason why he does ultra marathons and he pushes his body so much is to kind of know the limits of himself physically, to kind of fortify himself mentally. And there's, something I think he said probably last year, he said, the world today is soft. And so it's not that hard to really elevate yourself to amazing, because you just have to break through certain mediocrity that a lot of people feel. And I feel that way about customer kind of engagement. We live in a digital world where you'll send an email or a text, and there's entire billion-dollar deals that go together where people never even see each other. And people think that's now, that's just how you do it. And me and Alan do not agree. You got to get out of your office. You got to introduce yourself to people. We were meeting with the C-suite at WWE 2 weeks ago. We were in Florida meeting with several C-suites of cruise lines. If there's a meeting to be had, we're on a flight and we're shaking hands. And that's how you get access to these large brands. Because remember, these large brands are not startups that, that came out the door in the last 10 years. A lot of these brands are storied brands. They're large. They've been around a while. They still remember what it means to build a relationship with their partners, to shake hands, to break bread, to really look across the table at somebody and engage in kind of a collaborative conversation. That's been at the heart of Phunware since the very beginning. Alan was, in the very beginning was on a plane, every single day closing deals.
Wow.
And there was never something that, and it wasn't even about not being willing to delegate. He's an amazing delegator. But it was about, listen, if this is important enough for the CEO of a company we're trying to sell to show up to, then it damn sure should be important enough for our own CEO to show up to it too.
Makes
and
sense.
that level of respect is kind of lost in today's world where we're just so busy and we think an email can solve everything. We like to meet all our partners in person.
Interesting. No, I think that makes a lot of sense, right? It sets you guys apart, and it's obviously worked because you guys have been around for so long and you've worked with some of the biggest brands kind of globally, right? So obviously what you guys are doing is working, right? And it's interesting to get your kind of perspective on that, because I think sending a thank you, like handwritten card, right, is when was the last time somebody did that for you? It's almost unheard of, right? And I'm not saying you need to do that maybe every time, but you know, it's those little things that if you just make a little bit of extra effort, it goes so far. I get flying around the country, meeting with partners is quite a bit of effort. You know what I'm getting at, right?
Spot on. I love that example, and you're totally right. And then it's your point. I mean, the underpinning of it is just you care. Mm-hmm. And so after you meet with people in person and they can put a face to a name and you can tell some stories, you know, kind of not to use the military, you know, too much, but, you know, the military, you don't rush into battle for God and country. You rush into battle because you built a relationship with the person next to you and you know they would do the same. You know, business isn't necessarily always life and death. Sometimes it can be. But you do business with people you like. You know, and you know, granted the tech has to work and granted they have to be able to deliver, but you want to know that they're in it with you.
Yeah, it's
and
very
if you
secondary,
don't ever
right?
build that relationship, you gotta open those doors and really communicate and be ready for some criticisms too. You know, you got to be responsive to the customer's needs, and you got to, you know, really kind of deliver what you say you can deliver. But I always found, you know, relationships are key to kind of landing those large brands.
Interesting. Yeah, and I think just to touch on your point like a little bit longer about getting open and honest feedback from especially your early adopters is way more useful than the person. I love it. Well, yeah, but I want to know what you dislike about it, or what do we need to improve, or what do we need to add? And the people that are willing to openly give you kind of that brutal, honest feedback, and you need to be able to kind of take that and not get offended, right? Because the second you get offended, they're going to stop telling you the bad, right? And the only way to make your product better is hear some of the bad.
Very well said. Couldn't agree more.
So walk me through what is PhunCoin and how does it kind of play into Phunware?
Yeah, so this is exciting stuff. So I think the history of Phunware has kind of been a lot of firsts.
Sure.
But I always kind of use the analogy of a super talented songwriter. You know, there's not a lot of people who would know Phunware, you know, like they know a Facebook or like they know a Google.
Right.
And so we've always been that kind of really talented songwriter, you know, backstage listening to someone else, you know, sing our stuff, whether they're, you know, more talented us than or not. I won't comment on. But, you know, now it's kind of our time to really step out into the spotlight.
Okay.
And so what you may or may not realize that is going to be interesting, especially as it pertains to PhunCoin, is, you know, we're also in the process of working through a registration statement with the SEC.
Oh, wow.
To list on that. Yeah, to list on NASDAQ. So
interesting.
You know, we're in about the third round of comments. It's been a great, you know, process working with the SEC. As great as it can be working with any three-layer agency, but super excited about the opportunity to take Phunware public. And so, as if that wasn't enough of a challenge, and we didn't have enough lawyers and auditors, you know, working on our behalf, we decided to launch a cryptocurrency simultaneously. I think we'll go down in history as the first company to ever launch a simultaneous, you know, registration statement with the SEC and introduce the world to a unique cryptocurrency.
Interesting.
But doing that has a variety of challenges I'll talk to you first before I tell you exactly what it does.
Sure.
So because we're working to go public, you know, we had to really dial in kind of, you know, regulatory and compliance. And so as you look at the cryptocurrency space, there's a lot of question marks. Mm-hmm. You know, have we really been, you know, investing in and trading, you know, unregistered securities for the last couple of years?
Yeah.
And most likely the answer is yes. Now that doesn't mean everyone's going to jail and, you know, the whole system's going to blow up. The government's going to figure out a way to make all this make sense again.
Yeah.
But, you know, the reality is everyone's a speculator. We can keep arguing utility, but I mean, even, you know, Ethereum, you know, it has a question mark around it, even though the SEC kind of said it wasn't a security. And so you could argue Bitcoin. I get that one. But for the most part, a lot of folks should be biting the nails because you're really at this point hoping for the government to find a unique solution to get them back into compliance, because there's no justification that they weren't security. They were absolutely security. If you had an ICO and you're not like a DigiByte or a Bitcoin or something that just never had an ICO, you are most likely a security. End of story, full stop. And so for us, we wanted to go into it with that mindset, at least as it pertains to the U.S. And we are not about to just abandon the U.S. And so we said, rather than just running and saying, okay, we're going to close off all investment to U.S. investors because it's too much of a complicated regulatory environment, we're going to embrace that. We're going to take that and make that our competitive advantage.
Sure.
We're going to launch a fully compliant security token offering, and we're going to do it in parallel with a public, with a go public option with the SEC. And we're going to kind of open the kimono and say, this is what we're doing. And at the end of this, it'll be interesting because we do believe we'll see daylight here pretty soon. This could be, kind of almost by happenstance, a blessed off cryptocurrency offering, because the SEC knows exactly what we're doing. We've told them everything that we're doing. And we've even gotten a question during this process from the Office of Capital Market Trends, which is kind of a new regulatory body to kind of look at cryptocurrency. We were able to answer that. We've got a wonderful partner, the Goodwin, that have kind of led our legal from a cryptocurrency perspective. Amazing longtime partners at Wilson Sonsini, a storied law firm in California and all over the world at this point, has run all our corporate legal. And so at this point, we feel very comfortable that the SEC is pretty comfortable. You never know till it's done and the ink is dried. But, we hope to be just about through the process at this point when we'll have, kind of what we can point to as a fully regulated security token offering that actually has visibility in the real world. And that's I think, what's going to be defining, and I'll explain kind of what it does. So, we have this, again, to kind of, summarize, we have this application ecosystem, we have this data ecosystem, and then we have this kind of integration with IoT.
Right.
And so you can now take a cryptocurrency, and we have, two phases. I'll talk about the first one, initially. Think of it as, either enriching data or influencing customer behavior.
Okay.
So as we, as you ask people about Cambridge Analytica and all these things, data has kind of become nefarious, and it's kind of insidious, and no one's necessarily given up their Facebook accounts, but there's this growing awareness that as digital citizens, something's not right. Something's wrong in the matrix. And, it starts to feel like data exploitation.
Yeah.
And so, there's all these really complicated, solutions to this. Download this brand new browser and stop using Google, and maybe that'll work. Which is, don't even get me started on barriers to entry and customer adoption when you start telling people to change what they've been doing for 10 years. But,
it's interesting.
What we've always tried to look at, sometimes in the Army, it's keep it simple, stupid. It's KISS methodology. And sometimes simple is better. And so we kind of thought about it. Okay, so you have people, they're a little pissed off that their data is being used. Yes, there's, of course, everyone clicks accept for those terms and agreements and terms and conditions that no one ever reads.
Yep.
But nobody feels good about what's happening. And there's companies making billions of dollars every year on the back of your data, and they probably know more than you kind of want them to know.
Yep.
We said, step one, keep it simple, stupid. What if we just pay you? We collect data too.
Sure.
We collect a lot of data, and the brands are coming to us to buy it, and we can do that right now legally, but it doesn't feel right. So what if we came out kind of like a white knight and said, hey, guys, hey, girls, we're collecting data too, just like everybody else, but if you engage in our ecosystem, every time we get paid, you get paid.
Interesting.
And so it's a pretty basic principle, but we couldn't do it with fiat. The transfer fees would kill you trying to send nickels and quarters and dimes all over the world to millions of users. But now with the cryptocurrency, you have a technology that can do high volume, low cost value transfer at scale, almost in the background like a rules engine that we can just pay out as things happen. So all these brands have what's called profitable behaviors. A lot of these, especially major brands we deal with, they know their customers. They know who converts and has a higher, LTV, what their, customer acquisition costs are. They're really dialed into that. But loyalty programs are inherently, problematic. Okay. One, there's a lot of fraud involved with them. But two, and less of a common sense, kind of point to our value proposition is billions of dollars of loyalty programs, kind of sitting on companies' liabilities.
Sure.
So every time, you send out those points, that's a liability that company has to carry.
Yeah, interesting.
With cryptocurrency, you shift custodianship over to the user. So you can move all of that liability off the book.
Yeah,
That's
interesting.
a huge idea. So when we're talking to brands, you can do all the same things you're doing with your current loyalty program.
Yeah.
We can do it in a very seamless way using our application ecosystem, branded to look like it's yours. So we can actually have a white label our PhunCoin wallet and have it be a complete, say it's a cruise line, it can be CruiseCoin.
Yeah,
the underpinning security is PhunCoin, but to them it looks like a branded experience to their users. And all of that kind of same value proposition for a loyalty program now no longer sits on their books as a liability and can happen seamlessly in the background using our rules engine and our and so our blockchain solution. So we want to basically give people a chance to engage, with our system, tell us more about themselves. So we have a lot of data. We may know you're a man or a woman. We may know you live in Texas. We may even know your annual, median income.
Sure.
But we sure would like to know, are you going to send a kid to college this year? Are you going to buy a car? If you buy a car, do you like foreign or domestic? Do you like fine dining or casual? So there's a little bit of our wallet will not just be a wallet. It'll be also, again, a data acquisition device where it's fun and engaging. That's where we kind of actually, originated the name Phunware. It's applications that exhibit game-like mechanics. And so as you get into the wallet, we may have like a Tinder-like swipe function where, you get to answer a couple questions, 2 or 3 as you log in.
Yeah.
Tells us a little bit more about yourself, and then as brands engage and want to do things or purchase that data, we compensate you for it. And we compensate you for the questions you answer. We compensate you for the value you provide to the overall data segment. And so we have this data enrichment thing going on where now brands are coming to us and they get really dialed into what those users like, what they want, because the users are part of the conversation. It's instead of data exploitation, it's data collaboration for compensation. And now everyone feels better about it. So that's step one. The other part of it is very cool, and this is where the IoT comes into play.
Okay.
You ever seen Minority Report?
Yeah.
Remember when Tom Cruise stumbles into the mall? He's got the other, got the eye transplant in. It's like his scan his retina. He's like, "Hello, Mr. Yakamoto. How do you like that shirt you bought?" So we can do that now instead of a retinal scan at your mobile phone.
Sure.
So we know who you are, where you are, and what's around you. Pretty much all the time, especially if we're working with a big box retailer, for instance. Let's say you walk into a big box retailer. You're walking down an aisle. What's around you? Millions and millions, if not billions of dollars of R&D and packaging shoved into products on shelves, which also cost an arm and a leg. And you don't pay attention to any of it because you're trying to get in and out if you're like me. Well, brands are trying to figure out, how do I have this stuff jump off the shelf?
Sure.
Well, you've got to integrate something unique. Yeah. And so what we can do with our existing infrastructure is, as you're passing, let's say, an end cap at Target, for instance, and there's a product that we will push to you, you think it aligns with your data profile. We can hit you with a push notification that says, it comes across just like a text. It says you're standing right next to a very interesting product that, based on your purchasing history or your likes and dislikes, we think you'll love. For 100 PhunCoin, will you watch a 30-second video on how a product works?
Sure.
Yes. Video launches. You watch the video. At the end of the video, maybe there's an opportunity for more data acquisition. We say, for an additional 100 PhunCoin, answer these 2 questions about the video you just watched. Answer those 2 questions. Good news. And if you purchase this product within the next 2 hours, we'll give you 20% off, in store only.
Sure.
So now what you've done is you've introduced this seamless infomercial-like construct into the real world. So you've taken all of that information we collect in the virtual world, and you served it up to influence a real-world experience.
Sure.
So that's when you start bridging the gap. I kind of jokingly say, PhunCoin is going to become a digital platform for human experience.
Sure.
So everywhere you go, this idea of Siri is quite frankly a pain in the ass. Like, I don't want to have to ask my phone what to do. It's like an employee.
Yeah,
I don't want to have to tell you what to do. I want you to do it. I want you to know the ins and outs of the company, and I want you to just almost work a little bit autonomously because you have, initiative and you're accountable. Well, your phone should be the same thing. Your phone knows much more about you and the world around you than you probably ever will. And it has access to any information or any holes that exist in that kind of construct. So if your phone can just spring into action and serve up information and opportunities seamlessly wherever you are, now we're starting to advance the human experience in the real world. And so that'll be the next step with PhunCoin, is really influencing customer behavior at point of sale, or when they're experiencing interesting venues. That's why we were talking to WWE, when you're at a stadium, when you're, at a football game, when you're, waiting for instance, one of the cruise lines, they say if they have a very high conversion for booking excursions if people are shown information while they're waiting to board the ship. Which makes sense. I guess you're excited about getting on the ship. You can't wait. You're all jazzed up, and now you're waiting around. So, I guess I'll shop.
Yeah,
so how do you get that information to them while they wait? Well, your mobile phone will do that. We geofence the port. We know when you're arriving. We know when you're parked. Now we can start serving up videos to show you how cool the excursions are and lead you straight into a purchase environment. And there you go, done. And so there's a lot of this stuff we can do integrating with IoT that takes all of this construct of the virtual world and start bringing it into the real world to do things in a real world live. So I think that's important to us as well. And we deal in threes, that's not all. So the third and final leg of all of this will be, somewhat like a decentralized data exchange.
Sure.
Can we eventually get to the point where all the data we collect and all the data that makes up you, your likes, your dislikes, can that be yours, owned by you, on your mobile phone, biometrically secured, what we kind of call self-sovereign identity? And can you now put that into a unique, blockchain-based data exchange where brands can now buy data directly from you? So rather than going to Facebook and paying Facebook to do what they call build audiences, because you don't even have attribution to figure out, who actually, your messages are reaching, and Facebook and Google won't let you audit their data. You can now go into our unique data exchange and say, I want to, target men or women, or men and women, these ages, these locations, these, personality dynamics that we've already collected and curated, and I want to purchase that data in order to deliver messaging to those people.
Sure.
Well, now we can enable that. You control the data, so you control what you share, when you share it, how long you share it for, and you get paid for it.
Interesting.
And then, that it becomes kind of instead of a peer-to-peer exchange, it's a brand-to-consumer exchange. So finally, you're kind of a B2C exchange for data that begins to take. So we started with data exploitation, we moved to data collaboration and compensation, and finally we end up with true data empowerment.
Yeah, interesting. Because I would love the idea of just being able to give a brand or a store that I buy, I don't know, shirts from. I've said this kind of on the show before that I was talking about this. Is if it could say like, okay, you've bought these 10 shirts in the last 5 years, say, here we have another shirt that's similar to the ones you bought in the past. Do you want the new one, right? And we'll just ship it to you.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
I would love that. Like a simple use case of that and there's a handful of other things like that. Or maybe I'm in the store and it says, oh, you should check out these new items. Or, you know what? We have these new items. Go look at the pattern, see if you like it, but we don't have it in your size. Just can we ship it to you in like 3 days or something? That would be awesome. Right? Something simple.
100% right. Amazon Revolution has a lot with kind of the one-click, purchasing, but now you're talking kind of this almost no-click discovery. And so even beyond just, hey, this is like this, what's interesting, and we're working with our data scientists on, and bringing in even kind of thinking through folks that would, a little bit more almost like mental constructs, like Myers-Briggs, like personality types, and thinking through that. Because what's interesting is, they live and breathe this idea of, what does a person, how do they like to send communication? How do they like to receive communication? What's most likely to align with their personality construct? And so there's interesting correlations that we can now begin to build. So we build these data sets. They're also going to be kind of, we're going to take from what we know about, kind of personalities and be able to kind of curate information in a very unique and very personalized way. So you may discover something that you didn't even know you like. Hey, you bought these T-shirts, and because you bought these T-shirts, and we can look at all the other data of people that bought something similar, you may like these shoes or these jeans because they match and the designers work together or whatever. Or it might be as weirdly, not obviously correlated as you like this brand. You probably also like fine dining. This brand new restaurant is opening up, and we want to basically give you an offer for this or this. So there's a lot of discovery that we want to enable through the process as well, so that people are delighted not only by the experiences that they want and that they're looking for, but delighted about experiences they never knew they even needed.
Yeah,
and I think that's what you can begin doing when you curate so much data at scale in an organized way.
Interesting. Yeah, no, I think that's actually really quite fascinating. But what about going the other way? Some of the biggest pain points, and I don't play video games anymore because I don't have time, and I do miss it sometimes, but you log so many hours in these games, sometimes even like years, maybe even decades in some of these like more popular games. If a big game like that could integrate with what you guys are doing, and I could make me somehow export or get credit, some PhunCoin or something related to kind of, something I've been doing for a number of years and bringing it back into the real world. Have you guys thought about that, or is there any kind of, is that down the
I love it.
the pipe?
Ironically, you're smarter than most. And the interesting thing about the gaming industry is they're kind of the precursor to cryptocurrency.
Sure, very much so.
You had in-app rewards and kind of digital assets, whether it's lives or coins to buy more character, features or whatever. A lot of the people in the gaming industry, thinking like Machine Zone and Gabe Layden and some of those folks,
Sure.
when you hear them speak about, digital assets, it's not, first-person shooter. They talk like they're economists. They talk about, how the velocity of the, digital asset velocity and how everything works and is connected to treasuries and supply and demand. And it's very interesting because that's absolutely informative for how we're kind of building out, the PhunCoin ecosystem. So we're tapping on a lot of that knowledge. So to answer your question directly, yes, we already work with a lot of game developers. It's actually one of our sweet spots. So not only can we help introduce rewarded behavior, rewarded surveys, rewarded videos for more game lives or more features. We do that today already. We've also even worked with some brands on integrating advertising into the game itself. So being very immersive and showing, you're in Call of Duty and you're running past, a broken down building and there's a billboard, that's in-game advertising.
Sure.
So there's a lot of interesting nuances that we can take from the gaming industry to help kind of build out the cryptocurrency world. But yeah, and we absolutely would love to begin replacing the idea of just an in-game currency with an actual, cryptocurrency, so that there's more utility.
Sure. Interesting. But we're kind of coming to the end of the show, and I do want to kind of mention one other thing. It looks like you and I will both be kind of in LA in January for the Media Excellence Awards. I know I'm going to be there, and it sounds like you're going to be there as well. So I'm looking forward to kind of meeting you actually in person. But do you maybe want to talk quickly about kind of the importance of kind of being recognized in the industry and having kind of an award ceremony that actually recognizes kind of talent like this?
Absolutely. I've had the pleasure to get to know Sarah Miller behind the MEAs for a while now, and what she's done with the MEAs is I can't underscore the importance enough. For us being kind of leaders in mobile, a lot of people aren't inherently aware of what the capabilities are, both in terms of tech,
sure,
but also just in terms of use cases. And so when the way you do that, we talked about this, I think, before we started, the more you read, the more you talk, the more immersed you are in something, that's when the neurons start firing and you get, not only do you build relationships with other people, that shared camaraderie and trying to innovate, but you get inspired by other people's stories, other people's challenges. And so bringing everybody together in a format like the MEAs and really showing what excellence looks like is so critical to our industry because it keeps pushing the bar a little bit higher, a little bit higher, a little bit higher, and getting everybody, kind of, it's funny how connected this conversation has been, but, back to that, idea of, building relationships.
Yeah.
Who do you really want to work with? I could Google, past winners, and I could, see who won, do my own research, but there's nothing to replace actually being there, feeling the energy,
Sure.
shaking hands, meeting people, breaking bread, talking about challenges, and then maybe even talking about opportunities to collaborate in the future. So
Sure.
I'm a huge supporter of, organizations like the MEA that can kind of bring together and bring so many amazingly talented people together in one place for an evening or two, and really help people kind of not only get inspired for innovation, but also meet people who could be inspiring in the future.
Sure. And one thing you actually built or let people leverage your technology of past kind of winners, right? People have won these awards based on kind of your guys' technology. So I think that's kind of, something to kind of mention as well. And people can kind of go to the Media X, the letter X awards.com. But do you maybe want to close the show with mentioning where people can get more information about Phunware and PhunCoin and any other links you want to mention?
Yeah, absolutely. PhunCoin, it's easy enough. It's www.phuncoin.com. And Phunware is www.phunware. So fun with a PH. And, but, at the end of the day, our entire team, we have a very open door kind of policy, both online and in the real world. People can reach out to me anytime they want. It's easy enough. It's rcrowder@phunware.com. And I love talking to people in the industry. Love, collaborating, thinking about how we can maybe partner, how we can deliver our solutions better, or hear feedback from customers. And so I'm always available. Our CEO is always available. And we just want to say, thank you to you, Kevin. I mean, this is an incredible, thing that you've put together. You've had some incredible speakers. I'm glad you're slumming it with me today.
Slumming. I don't think it's slumming it, man. This has been great.
I appreciate the opportunity to chat with you and talk more about this. I tell entrepreneurs, you never pass up an opportunity to talk about what you're doing. And if you do, maybe you're not as excited about it as you should be. And so you can't get me to stop talking about Phunware and PhunCoin and our amazing team. So this has been a real treat for me.
Perfect, Randall. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to be on the show, and I look forward to keeping in touch with you and seeing you in person in January. And have a good rest of your day, man.
Absolutely. You as well, Kevin. Thank you so much.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening. Please visit our website at buildingthefutureshow.com to join the free community, sign up for our newsletter, or to sponsor the show. The music is done by Electric Mantra. You can check him out at electricmantra.com and keep building the future.